Everybody, welcome to Allison Unfiltered. Listen, I am fired up today. I have got some really cool stuff to share with you. I spent about 5.5 hours on a training today, and I am not being paid for this promotion in any way, shape, or form. I'm not getting anything extra. It's just something that was really cool. And apparently there's a lot of other people that thought it was cool too. It was called The Art of Living with Matthew McConaughey. And I don't know if most people realize how interesting Matthew McConaughey is, but several years ago, I listened to his book called Green Lights. And I'm usually a reader. I'm not usually an audible person, but Matthew McConaughey has an extremely sexy voice. And so listening to him read his biography, not really biography, but his story, Green Lights, was really awesome. And so it kept my attention for sure. He's a great storyteller. Oh my gosh, he's such a great storyteller. So I follow him. I've kept up with some stuff, and then I had someone on my team reach out and say, hey, look, Matthew's doing this thing, right? And I think I'm gonna watch it. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. I'm gonna watch this too. And we shared it with people on our team. And it started at noon today, and it went till about 5:30. And I had like a little break in between there because I had a lunch date with some girls from my team. But what I did miss, I'll go back and watch tomorrow, or maybe even this evening. But y'all, some of this stuff, I mean, he had some really great people on here. Tony Robbins is one of my favorites. And so these two parts that I'm going to talk about today, they came from and put things in a different perspective. And they came from this training, if you want to call it. Of course it's going to turn into a more of a business opportunity for Matthew McConaughey and things like that, right? And there's people I was reading in the chat that were real pissed off, like, oh, this is, they suck you in, they say you do this. I mean, guys, if you don't know that's what it's going to turn into somebody making money off of something when they put something out there for free, that's just honestly your own idiocy, right? I mean, you should know better for sure. So, one of the things that stood out to me, there were 10 things that Matthew McConaughey went over. And I'm going to talk about it. The first one he talked about was admit why you're here, right? Don't live in an illusion, exist in reality. Number 3 is challenge yourself. Don't create a false sense of identity. Number 4 is don't be complacent. Number 5 is our greatest strength can be our greatest witness. And I'm going to talk a little bit about these. He said, white lies are fine, but don't let them escalate. Too many lies. We don't know our own truth. Number 7 is overcome your imposter syndrome. Number 8 is what is the boogeyman. Number 9 is gratitude. And number 10 is trust others and ourselves. And so I want to talk a little bit about that. And I want to share like what I wrote down in this. And it's hard to share this stuff because it's really raw and I haven't refined it in any way, shape, or form. But where else better than to share it on the place that is totally unfiltered for me and raw and real, right? So I have to put my glasses on to be able to read this stuff, but at least they're cute, right? Okay. So the first question he says is admit why you're here. Like, what do you want? And I just said, I want more, but I'm scared I'll fail. Xyngular came easier than I thought. And the podcast has not done as well as I would like for it to. Listen, these are my scribble notes. It says, what if people don't want to hear and learn from my story? I need to know that others' opinions don't matter. I just need to move forward. I need more self-love. I want to let go of all the bad, and I want to be the person that people are attracted to. I want people to see the light of Jesus in me. And I say that because my friend Holly and I had a conversation the other night, and I was like, I was like, I'm just drawn to you. You've got such good vibes about you and just such great things about you. And she looked at me and she smiled and she goes, it's not me, it's Jesus. And I'm like, it makes sense, right? She loves him. And I do too. I just don't know how to I don't know. I'm not really approachable. Most people say I'm intimidating. I have resting bitch face. And it's just because I'm uptight. That's it. Like when you can get me to let loose and have fun, I'm funny as shit most of the time. But until you get to know me, you just think I'm a bitch, right? And you've probably figured that out through here that I'm not. I'm just a big softy with, defense walls built up 10 miles high. He said, don't live in an illusion, exist in a reality. That's the second thing. He said, what is your illusion? And what is your reality? And my reality is that people don't live up to my expectations, and I'm missing out on reality, chasing the illusion. One of the things I have to work on a lot more is loving people where they're at. And gosh, that is so damn hard, right? Because I don't understand why everybody just can't do what I do, right? It's just how I'm built. I'm just built. I've had people tell me you're just a machine. I'm an addictive machine. That's what I am. I'm just addicted to it, to what I do, right? Number 3 was challenge yourself. Don't create a false sense of identity. Are you only hanging with people who agree with you? Are you only hanging with people who keep you small? Are you having conversations with people who challenge you to think differently, to maybe see the world a little differently? There's so many views. Complacency. Don't get complacent. Don't just say it is what it is, right? Because it's not. You have to do better than that. You can't get complacent. Are you not ambitious enough? We hesitate because we feel failure. Are you blaming others for not getting what you want? That's easy to do too. Well, this didn't happen, or the government this, or politics this, or people don't have money, or whatever, and that's all bullshit. It's just complacency and accepting things how they are and not making a difference, right? 5, our greatest strengths can be our greatest witness. Weakness, not witness. And one of my greatest strengths is I'm really great at what I do. And I know that. I also know that there's different ways to skin a cat, but I'm really great at what I do because I love what I do, right? But I also sometimes, this is going to be tough, especially if anybody on my team is listening, but sometimes I don't believe that someone can do it better than me. Right? And so I put my nose where it doesn't belong, and I think that I know better when maybe they actually know their people better and they're touching them in the way that they know they need to be touched. Do you know what I'm saying? Like reaching out to them. So that was a really hard one to swallow right there. Number 6 was white lies are fine, but don't let them escalate. Too many lies. If you tell too many lies, you don't know your own truth. And I know so many people like that, right? Like, if you tell so many lies about yourself, I can't do this. I'm not good at taking selfies. I'm not good at social media. I'm not good at the phone. I can't do this. I can't do that. I don't want to pause in the middle of this, but I need to get through this so I don't squirrel. So I'm making a note. Sorry. This is what happens when you do this live. Actually, I'm not sorry, because this is part of the fun for me. So, the white lies, don't let them escalate too many lies. You tell yourself you can't, you can't. You eventually start believing what you can't do. And so when I'm talking to my team all the time, they'll say something like, a perfect example today at lunch. One of the girls we were talking to, and we took a selfie, and she's like, "Oh, I don't like pictures. I can't take pictures very well. I don't, blah, blah." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, stop the negative self-talk. Like, we're not going to have that here. Like, we're here to lift you up and build you up, not for you to, beat yourself up." Golly. And you hear it all the time, what people think they can't do, and they've convinced themselves. So, that's the thing. Like, don't keep telling yourself things that you can until you don't know your own truth, because you're a lot more capable than what you think. Imposter syndrome. Woo! Admit our confidence is fickle. If I don't achieve it, I feel less confident and less significant. That is so true. That's something that Matthew McConaughey said. He's like, if I don't accomplish something, or if I don't achieve something, I feel less confident. And that's so true, because I'm such an overachiever. Like, I'm a high achiever. I want great things to happen. And I want to do really well in what I do. It's how I was in school and how I've been. I never played sports, but damn, if I did, I'd have been really great. We are not alone in our struggles. I have to forgive myself. He talked about how he went to this monastery one time, and he spent like 4.5 hours just laying it all out on the line for Brother Christian, who went and talked to him. And at the end of it, the guy didn't say anything. He didn't say anything, and forever. And Matthew McConaughey was just sitting there and waiting and waiting and waiting. And this is one of the stories he talked about in Green Lights too. So I was familiar with it. And it's one of my favorite stories, because he said that the monk looked at him after and said, "Me too." Right? That's the only thing he said back to him. And he's like, "I hit the ground, and I was in tears." And he said, "I felt so much relief, because someone else was feeling the way I felt, like I wasn't alone in the world." Right? And that's huge for most of us. We need to feel like we're not alone. And that's why we try to, I don't know, we talk about what's happening with us so we can relate to other people, so they don't feel alone and we don't feel alone, right? The next one, let me talk about imposter syndrome again too. That happens a lot in my business. And it's happened to me too. Like, I have this a lot on my team, like if I'm not sticking to the plan and I'm not following the plan, I don't feel comfortable coaching other people and telling them what they're supposed to be doing if I'm not going to do it. So I'm just not going to say anything. I'm just not going to do anything, because I don't feel like I'm good enough. Even on your bad days, you're enough. You have to know that. You have to hear that. Even on your bad days, you're enough. Okay? Pick your feet up, pull your bootstraps up, put your big girl panties on. You're enough. And you got to tell yourself that. I got to tell myself that all the time. I need to get in a better habit of that. The next one's, what's the boogeyman? The unknown darkness, your fears that are unseen. You don't see what's under the bed in the dark, things like that. Listen, I'm going to tell a little story real fast on myself with this. When I was like 5 years old, and so help me God, if my family ever hears this and they do anything related to this, it'll be murder, death, kill. I'm going to say that right now. When I was like 5 years old, this lady, one of our teachers in kindergarten at Green Acres daycare, we were on a bus and we were going to see a teacher who had been sick or something or recovering, and we were going to go see her as a class. And so she told this story about how when she was little, she was always scared to get into the bed in the dark. So they didn't have a lamp by the bed. So she would turn off the light and she would run and jump in the bed. Okay. And her brother overheard her talking to her sister one night saying, okay, like her sister convinced her, okay, just walk to the bed, right? And just walk to the bed. You can do it. There's nothing under the bed, I promise. And the little brother overheard and he hid under the bed. So she walked to the bed and he grabbed her feet under the bed, right? And she screamed and she freaked out and she almost wet her pants. And it was just terrifying for her, right? That was her biggest fear that happened. That the boogeyman was going to come out from under the bed and grab her legs. To this day, I think about that every time I have to get up in the middle of the night and go to the bathroom and I go walk right back around to my bed. There's a little hop. There's a little hop that happens, and it's like a little panic and a little hurry up and throw my feet up under the cover so nothing gets me. I'm not even kidding. I'm 47 years old, and that story has rocked me for 42 years. That lady has no idea what she told a bus full or a little van full of kids. That which one it was going to stick with, and it was me. Damn. Okay, so that's my story about the boogeyman. What we find out about the boogeyman, though, is there really isn't anything to fear at all. Quit turning your dreams into nightmares. You know, fear stops us so much because of the unknown. Everything worth having is going to cost us something, you know, and I love that. It's true. Everything worth having. What are you willing to sacrifice? Are you willing to sacrifice time hanging out with friends? Are you willing to sacrifice time with your family? Maybe dinner with your family sometimes. What are you willing to sacrifice? Are you willing to wake up and get your ass out of bed to help somebody get started, right? What are you willing to sacrifice for yourself to help other people? That's how it comes across to me. The next one, number 9, is gratitude. What are you thankful for? And do you dissect your success or your failure more? And that was really huge to me. It says, give yourself grace and have gratitude for yourself and reciprocate more success. So I 100% dissect my failures 10 times more than my successes. 100%. And most of us do, right? Because it's just, I don't know, why are we bred to see or raised to see the negative, right? That's hard. Is it, you know, for me, it's a failure of losing people, failure of not being enough for others. You know, that's one of my failures that I worry about. And the other one is I can help people change their futures and I care about my people. Those are, he wanted us to talk about our successes, and that's something that I'm really successful at. The other thing is trust others and ourselves. Wow, I need to work on that so much. For the most part, I trust myself, but I don't trust other people to do it like I do or do it as well as I do. And that's, you know, that's a huge flaw for me, because part of my job is like giving people wings to fly, whether that's, you know, my children or the people that I work with or the partners that I work with. All of those things, I want to give people their wings. And we won't move forward without having more trust. And that's so very true. We will never move forward if we don't have more trust, and more trust in other people, right? More trust in people. Y'all, there were 2 million people. 2 million people signed up for this. The Art of Living with Matthew McConaughey. 2 million people. That tells me that there's 2 million people out there looking for more. So to my team that's watching or listening, you can't tell me there's not a plethora of people that you can help, right? They want more. They want out of what they're in. They want a different job. They want a different life. You can help people. I saw 2 million today that wanted to change and wanted help for themselves, right? That includes me. One of the ladies that was on, and forgive me because I don't remember her name, and I really should, and I should have probably gone and looked it up before I got on here, but I didn't. She talked about the difference between don't and can't. She would say things like, I'm so overwhelmed, I'm so overwhelmed, I'm so overwhelmed. And then she said eventually she had an epiphany one day about how overwhelmed doesn't live here. And she started telling herself that, like, overwhelmed doesn't live here. Or there's no room for overwhelmed here. And it was interesting how she changed her perspective. But one of the other things she talked about, and I think that's huge because there's so many people out there like, I'm so busy, I'm so busy, I'm so busy. Busy is just a sign of sheer unorganization in your life, right? And I get it, some people aren't organized, but if you prioritize your time with the things that are important, you would probably find yourself not so busy and a little more extra time for yourself. So just throwing that out there. But one of the other things this lady touched on is the difference between the words can't and don't. So let's say you're at a restaurant, and I'm going to start using this, like, seriously 100%, because I like the mind trick that this does. Don't and can't. If you're at a restaurant and someone says, hey, do you want to order, I don't know, do you want to order a piece of cake for dessert? And if you say, no, thank you, I don't eat cake, it tells your brain it's a decided choice, right? It's a decision that you made. It's a purposeful decision that you made. But if you tell your friend, I can't eat the cake, I can't eat that right now, then you make yourself feel deprived in that moment, and there's no power in deprivation, right? The reality is you're choosing not to eat the cake because you're trying to lose weight, or you're trying to get healthy, or you're on a sugar fast, or whatever it may be, right? But do you see the power and the difference in that? So try that the next time. Instead of saying I can't, say I don't. And I've heard Darren Hardy talk about that. He says, things like, I don't eat bread, I don't eat sugar, like processed sugar, I don't eat, there were a couple other things that he listed. But because he says the word don't, it's a conscious choice that he doesn't, not that he can't. So I've heard that a couple of ways, but the way this lady put it just kind of drove it home for me today. So that was pretty cool. So those are the 10 things that Matthew McConaughey went over, and I thought that was some really, really, really good shit. The next thing that I want to discuss is Tony Robbins, and I like him. I think he's pretty great, and I think he's got a lot of good stuff to share. So I took some notes, emailed them to myself, so they're on my screen. So I may not be looking at you, but I'm looking at my computer screen because I did not want to screw this up. So one of the things that he said, and this is, y'all, this is so true. Like, everything that I've been through in my life, and everything that I've overcome, and everywhere I've been, and from growing up with alcoholism, and growing up without a dad, and looking for love in all the wrong places, and ending up in the club, and all of the things, they help shape a little bit of who I am, right? Maybe they help shape a lot of who I am. But your biography isn't your destiny. That hit me like a ton of bricks, right? So many people find themselves that, oh, well, this happened to me, so, I just have to be this, or I'm depressed, or whatever. Your biography is not your destiny. And I am living proof of that. My biography was not my destiny because I overcame all of that. And if I can do it and I'm just this regular girl from Tyler, Texas, you can too. But for things to change, you have to change. You have to change. And there won't be any change until you make a decision to change and you have progress in changing, right? There's no change without progress, but you have to change for things to change. You have to start eating better. You have to start studying more. You have to start trying harder at work. You have to put more effort into your day. You have to get up and wake up in the morning and make a decision that you are not going to be a victim of everything that's happened to you, but you're going to be a survivor and you're going to let all those things fuel you for your success. Another thing he talked about was our souls are all equal, yes, but not in the marketplace. And what he meant by that is you have to become more valuable for what people need. You have to add value to people's lives for you to become successful in the marketplace. So for me personally, with Xyngular, I lost 75 pounds in 9 months. I've kept it off for 6 years. And I add value to people's lives by coaching them and helping them through their struggles and cheering them on. I had a girl today that asked me, she came in her chat, it was her day 9, and she was like, I'm so disappointed. I only lost 4.5 pounds. And, I could have just been like, oh, well, try again next time. But I know that's not what she needs, right? And she's like, I saw all these other stories of all these people that had this weight to lose. I was like, but babe, you only had 20 pounds to lose. I said, look at this in perspective. If I sat there and told you that I had 75 pounds to lose, and I'm so disappointed because I only lost 10 of it in my first 8 days, you would tell me I'm crazy, right? So you lost a quarter of your weight in 8 days, right? That's pretty impressive. Like, did you add all your, and she's like a few inches here and there in the waist. So like, did you add all your inches up? She finally comes back. She's like, I lost 11 inches. I was like, OMG, you lost 4.5 pounds and 11 inches in 8 days. That's freaking incredible. And it is incredible. There's a really good numbers, right? And I had one girl that she lost like 5 pounds and 17 inches. But the flip side of that is, you've got some people that maybe they lost 10 or 12 pounds, but they only lost like 4 inches. So everybody's body's different, right? But what she needed in that moment is encouragement. And that's what I did. And she came back and she says, thank you so much for your encouragement and your support. That meant the world to me, you giving me that different perspective, right? And so I added value to her life in that moment, right? That's what you got to do. It'd be real easy for me to just slough it off and not spend that time. But that's what my coach did for me, right? So why wouldn't I do that for someone else? What we don't realize is that our lives are all about emotions, but most people haven't mastered their emotions yet. And so we talk about, I know I haven't. I mean, I let shit bother me all the time that I shouldn't. And one of these days, I'm just going to throw it all in the damn trash, right? But having that emotional intelligence, and I think that's part of this, like it's part of these personal development moments and these things that you can do for yourself and listen to yourself and pump yourself up. Like, stop waiting for somebody else to pump you up. Like, do it for yourself. Like, recognize yourself and the great things you did and pat yourself on the back. I'm learning that too. The really freaking hard way, I'm learning that. Gosh, I'm learning that the hard way. But what I've learned in all this personal development that I've done over the years is emotional intelligence, right? My agency, that's how I react to things. That's what I have for myself. And fear is the number one emotion that holds you back from anything and everything. You say, okay, yes, I want to do this. I want to do this. I want to be this. But then that fear in the mind, your mind tells you, oh, you're not enough. You're not good enough. You're not pretty enough. You're not skinny enough. You can't do that. Right? And somehow we listen to that inner voice more than we listen to anything else, which is mind blowing. Right? I have my husband tell me all the time that I'm beautiful. I could be standing in the bathroom naked, just getting out of the shower with a towel on my head, and he'd tell me I'm beautiful. That's not what I see in the mirror. I see hail damage on my legs. I see a tummy tuck scar. I see boobies that I wish were a little bit higher up. I see stretch marks. I see back fat that because of my weight loss, it'll probably never go away unless I have it surgically removed. Yeah, I've lost 75 pounds, but man, I still struggle with confidence too, right? And I still struggle with my inner self and being able to look at myself in the mirror and tell myself that I'm beautiful, right? That's hard. And so when someone else tells you that, it's hard, it makes it harder to believe. So how do we do that? How do we convince ourselves? How do we believe ourselves? How do we trust ourselves? One of the things that he said was turn it on yourself, or turn it on itself, right? Turn it around. What's the difference? And I loved this. What's the difference between fear and faith? I'm going to give you a second for that. What's the difference between fear and faith? Nothing. Just your imagination. That was like an explosion in my head. It's so true. There's no difference between fear and faith other than our imagination. Faith is what you can't see. Mostly so is fear. He also told a little bit of a story about being in a race car, right? And he said that the guy told him to focus on where you want to go, not where you are. And they were headed for this wall. They were in this S curve, and he's like, "Don't look at the wall, because if you look at the wall, you're gonna hit the wall because you steer where you focus. So turn your head and look at the road, look at the track." And he did, and they did not hit the wall, right? So focus on where you want to go, not where you are, and you steer where you focus. Where you focus is the direction you're going to go in, right? And it's true. Like when we're driving a car, if we look down at the radio to the right, guess what? We kind of veer to the right a little bit. It's so true. But if we keep our eye on the road and what's in front of us, we drive straight. Interesting. Another thing that he touched on is, and this is Tony Robbins, when you do the right thing, you don't get immediate gratification. And that's hard for some people, right? That gratification sometimes comes around later, years later, when you do the right thing. That just makes me think about something, but I'll share that another time. 3 decisions in life. 1, what are you going to focus on? Because focus equals your feelings. 2, what does it mean? You know, how do you feel about it? Like, what does it mean to you? Because emotions shape your life. And 3, what am I going to do? Your actions shape your life. So focus on do you focus on what you have or what is missing? And most of us focus on what is missing, just like we focus on, or we dissect our failures over our successes, right? So 3 decisions you got to make in life. What are you going to focus on? What does it mean to you? And what are you going to do about it, right? What action are you going to take? Do you want to change your life today? if you do, you have to make a decision on what you're going to focus on. That's the thing. What decision could you make today that would change your life? You want your life to change? What are you going to decide to do about it? Because you have to make a decision. You cannot live in this limbo continuously. One of the last things he said was most people have great intent, but then they have that intention and then they get home and they get distracted, or they get distracted by emails or cooking dinner or doing things for your kids and things like that. You have to take action while you're in that state of intent. You know, he's got this course that he's doing, and it's like a 3-month course and things like that. And yeah, I mean, it costs money. It's gonna, and I haven't decided if I'm gonna invest in that because I've just invested in some different personal development for myself. But I like what he has to say. So if you like any of this stuff, go to theartofliving.com, look that up, and gosh, I wish I could remember the website. I'm sure it'll take you to it. But I think it's, I took a screenshot of it and it's on my dang phone, and I am recording this on my phone, so I don't think I can find it. Oh, I did write it down. Jointheroadtrip.com. So roadtrip.com. Okay, let me back up. The Art of Living with Matthew McConaughey is what I was watching, okay? Roadtrip.com is what he's offering for his business class. And I want to say it's like, I mean, it's a whole bunch of different speakers. You're getting a conglomerate of people and speakers and motivational speakers and things like that. Which are really great. Listen, this was some really good stuff today. And I want to say it's like $397, or you can pay it out in 3 payments over 3 months or something like that. But $397 is worth that, because when we did the Darren Hardy Hero's Journey, it was $2,700, and it cost us like $780 for, I don't know, until that was paid off. I don't math in my head well. But just thought of something else and had to make myself a note. I have to call the bank. But here's the thing. We all have choices, and we all have to decide what we're going to do with our lives and what we want from our lives. And do we want more? Are we satisfied with where they are? And don't get me wrong, right? Like, I love my life. I have an incredible life. So my wanting more for myself is just because I'm ready to grow more as a person. Has nothing to do with incredible kids. Oh my God. Speaking of incredible kids, Gage comes home and he's got his cap and gown, right? And you know, he's just a natural high achiever. It's just how he is. And he's like, yeah, they told me I got a medal. And I was like, a medal for what? And he's like, I don't know. He's like, I can't, like, he was like, summa something, and he handed it to me. I was like, oh my God, you got a medal for summa cum laude? Like, seriously? He's like, what does that even mean? I was like, oh, Gage, that's like the top of the top, the best of the best. Like, that's huge. He's like, was that something I can put on my resume? I'm like, hell yeah, you can put that on your resume. Like, that's impressive. Like, you need to go read about that and look that up and understand what that means, because you need to wear that medal with pride, right? And so I totally squirreled and lost my train of thought. But anyway, you got to decide what you're going to do for yourself and what you're going to do with yourself. And it's not easy. It's not easy, but it can be done. And And so I love my life. I love my husband. I love my kids. I have an incredible life. I love our dogs. I love Toothless, our lizard. Brighton and Colin and Jacob and Gage are just a huge part of everything in my life. But I just want more for myself, because I know that when I grow more, I can do more for other people and I can be more, right? And that's why I want more. So that's where that comes from. Not that I feel like I'm deprived. I'm not. I'm a very, very, very fortunate woman to have all the blessings that I have. But let me tell you something. I have fought my ass off for those blessings. And if you've been listening since day one, you know that. So, and if you haven't listened since day one, please back up. Back up to the beginning and just listen, because I think I'm a pretty good storyteller too. You know, I think I've got a good knack for it. So anyway, you guys have a fantastic day, evening, wherever it is, whatever you're doing or whenever you're listening to this. Thank you for listening. You can find us on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. Please, please, please share this. You guys, I need you to share it. I need you to tell your friends about it. I don't want this to fail. I don't want it to be a failure, but I can't do this by myself. I need your help. So please share it with other people. Just even send it privately. You don't have to send it on your Facebook, but like, hey, go check this girl out. Or drop some comments so maybe it'll get some action. Something, if you got something out of this today. So anyway, love you guys lots. Thank you for all your support. Peace out, homies. We'll see you.